started. Beautiful. So officially, thank you everyone for attending tonight, our culturally responsive knowledge cafe offered by National Louis University, specifically the Office of Teacher Development. So our session tonight is the second one in a series of 8 named Moving Beyond Heroes and Holidays, presented by the esteemed Myra Almaraz. This session is going to focus on moving beyond heroes and holidays by challenging the traditional anecdotal mentioning of non-dominant groups, and instead meaningfully integrate these voices into our curriculum on a daily basis. And how are we going to do that? So aside from simply acknowledging those who are part of making history, we're going to understand the roots of oppression that existed a little bit better and the roots of oppression that still exist. And so hopefully we can prevent more, we can facilitate more inclusion and equitable access for our students that are in our classrooms. So with that, Myra, we're so glad that you're here. And let me see, I'm shrinking the slide. So if we could flip to the next slide, we'll take a look. Sure. Yep, perfect. So this is us. This is our team. So there's myself, Barb Grooms, the senior field coach in the Office of Teacher Development. Sean will have you say hello for a quick second.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sean. I'm the Associate Director of the Teacher Development Team. I work alongside Barb and Leslie. I am really excited to have Myra with us. I've had the pleasure of being a coworker with Myra at CPS. And she was a teacher at CPS for a long time, and then we worked as curriculum instruction specialists in central office for a while. And now it's so good to have her here and to be learning alongside her. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here this evening. And I'm going to pass it on to Leslie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie, and I am the coordinator for the Office of Teacher Development. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time once again, as Sean said, and I hope we have a great session.
Okay. Is that my cue? Do I take the mic now, Sean?
Okay. You're good to go, Myra. Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's do this. So first, welcome, everyone. In a little bit, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am. But usually I like to start with something called a soft start, just to make sure that folks are comfortable, that you're sitting in your favorite spot, that you have something delicious to drink and you feel good. Because one of the things that I like to do is whenever I present or I do a session, it's more like a conversation where we learn from each other. Okay, so we're going to be doing a lot of sharing. And I want to make sure, first of all, that you all are comfortable. So make sure that you are. And like I said, we're going to be doing a soft start check-in. So this is called a quote grab. So while we were waiting for folks to settle in, I asked if you can kindly read the quotes on these slides, and you should have the slide deck, a PDF version of it in the chat. So I wanted you to look at these slides, and all I wanted you to do was, as you make your way in, I want you to really think about which quote, either from this slide or this one, is resonating with you. Okay. You can put a thought, you can put a question, anything that's coming to mind, or a connection. And if you could just put it on the chat, that would be awesome. Okay. So I think I have, I'll make sure you all can see them. Okay. See. And I think Leslie posted the link to the PDF. Okay. So I'm going to give you some time to look at that, to look at the quotes. And as soon as one's calling your attention, put the number of the quote in the chat. Oh no. I'm going to check the settings real quick. Hopefully you can. If you can't open it, I'll try to reshare it again at the end to see if I have to change some settings. But either way, I'm gonna put these here. Okay. And if you can tell us why are you like, what's your thought or what's a connection or a question that you have as to why you chose those? You could either come off mute or you could either just write it in the chat. For those of you who are not able to see. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 4s. Okay, Crystal. For example, Day of the Dead at my daughter's school, they did an altar, but they didn't learn the history of it. Ooh, okay. Crystal, that's for number 2. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Anybody else?
Myra, I know for me that number 4 resonated because I feel like when you have to recognize an inequitable system, you also have to recognize your students within that system, and then also how you situate yourself as a teacher, checking your implicit biases that you bring into the classroom and who you are. So that's something that really resonated.
Okay, love that. Thank you, Sean. Okay, Lupe Vasquez. I chose number 5 because I think it is difficult to know what to teach or say to students. Some teachers would want to tell or teach students a lot more, but some schools may restrict a few or many topics. Thank you so much for that reality, Lupe. Yes, right? I want to make sure that, one of the reasons I included that quote is because this may be, how many of our teachers are feeling. I want to be able to talk about these things. And a lot of times, yes, it's also the school district may be restricting it. But a lot of times, some teachers that I work with say, this is hard for me to talk about this. How do I know that I'm saying the right things? I'm afraid that I might say something that's not okay. And these are all very real and honest feelings that teachers have. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge them. So thank you for that, Lupe. Ooh, number 5, I live in a rural community and we were raised to just not talk about anything political. It's majority white, Christian, closed-minded people. I hear that. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Stephanie, right? A lot of it has to do, we bring ourselves into the classroom, not just as students, but also as teachers. And we have to think about the way we were brought up, and how we were brought up also makes its way into the classroom. That's a great thing to point out. Stephanie Lane Baker. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if you can go up to 1 again.
Yep.
1 spoke to me as well as 5, but it's that critical consciousness that really makes me, even for our young students who can really begin to break down and understand bias. So it's that really, really resonates with me.
Ooh, thank you.
Culturally relevant, anti-bias training.
Thank you so much for that, Stephanie Lane Baker. Yes. Okay. And I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to have to say this, Sean. I think there's a former student of mine on here.
Hey, call them out, Myra.
Gonna have to. Marina, is it okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm here. Hi.
I'm like, are you my former student?
Yes.
I cannot believe that you are
I
here.
love it.
My heart literally is like racing because
Yeah, I saw that you were speaking and I said RSVP.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to embarrass you a little bit. Look at me. I'm
That's okay.
Thank you, Marina. I appreciate
Yes.
that. And I'm going to read what you said. For number 4, when you don't have open, honest conversations, you aren't recognizing students' identities, struggles, and curiosities. This is just going to continue ignorance. Ooh, feeling that. Thank you for that, Marina. All right. Sharnita Jones, I believe each generation should push for the next generation to find more solutions from the last. We look into to get into this profession, and we have to get a clear understanding that each generation brings a new challenge that we have to manage, but we have to encourage them and into solution-based rather than give them the answer. Absolutely. Ooh, absolutely, right? The students come with the answers. Love that. Okay, beautiful soft start, beautiful way to begin this session. This was just an opportunity for us to really dive into what we're about to do deeper, and for me to get a chance to hear what, your brilliant minds already come with. So I really appreciate the level of participation here. So to move along, obviously I'm gonna now introduce myself. Who am I? And also I wanna learn who's here. But before I do that, this is really important to me, and with permission, I want to start with a land and labor acknowledgement. Our home, Chicago, is on the traditional lands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi nations, as well as the Miami, the Sauk, the Meskwaki, and the Ho-Chunk and Menominee. And these nations continue to call this area home. Okay. I would also like to acknowledge that starting this session with this truth is only, I recognize that this is just a small step towards my journey of being actively anti-racist. So to work towards repairing this injustice, anytime that I personally gather with a new group, I make this public acknowledgement, and I also make a monetary donation to the American Indian Center of Chicago. I also want to respectfully acknowledge our debt to enslaved people, primarily of African descent, whose labor and suffering built and grew the economy of this nation. And I want to recognize the labor of American-born and immigrant workers, particularly of African, Asian, Mexico, Central and South American descent, whose labor remains hidden, but still contributes to the well-being of our collective community. Okay. Oh, I love it. Thank you for, some of you are still putting your comments in there. I love this. So keep them coming if you're still resonating or you're still thinking about those quotes. Thank you. Okay, so a little bit about who I am. Really quickly, this is always like, oh, what do I share? So I was born and raised in Chicago, in the northwest side of Chicago. And the one thing that I do want to share a little bit about who I am and why my story kind of contributes to who I am today as an educator. So I'm the youngest of 10. 8 of my siblings were born in Mexico, and number 9 and number 10, we call ourselves by our numbers because there's so many of us. We were born in Chicago, and my parents came to Chicago in 1970. So I grew up with mostly adults, with immigrants, with my brothers and sisters were students who didn't speak English. They were ELs. They were undocumented for some time. So I grew up as the youngest of 10, having this idea that I knew what privilege was because I was born in the United States, because I spoke the language, and because, my parents sent me to private school. I always felt like, okay, I privilege to me is not something that I should be mad about. I know I didn't choose to be number 10, it just so happened that way, but I always felt like I had a duty and an obligation to do something with what I was born with, right? The other thing that I do want to share that's very personal, but definitely, impacted who I am as an educator is that one of the things that my siblings and my parents picked up on when they moved to Chicago was that if we wanted to have good things, we needed to live in neighborhoods where it was mostly white. And this meant that most of the time we were in neighborhoods where we were perhaps the only Mexican family living on the block. And while, yes, we had a lot of great things, one of the things that I didn't have in school is that I always felt like my identity I had to split my identity. I had my home identity where I was Mayra, and then I had my school identity where some teachers even called me Mayra and told me that my name should have been spelled M-Y-R-A because that's how you spell Mayra. So I always felt like I had 2 identities, and little me always felt like they kind of wanted to be together. They wanted to be one. And so one of the things that happened was I swore that when I became a teacher, I wanted to make sure that my students really felt good about who they were. I wanted to celebrate their identities, and I wanted them to feel comfortable being who they were in my classroom. And so I taught in CPS I was in the classroom for 15 years. I taught everything from world studies, US history, contemporary American history back in the day. And then the 2 classes that have my heart forever would be ethnic studies and Latin American history. Those are the two classes where I had an opportunity to teach students about folks who usually are ignored in traditional history classes. After that, I went to work for central office in CPS, and that's where I met Sean. And I was a specialist, so I got to work with teachers. That bug of working with teachers really got to me. And so after almost 19 years working for CPS, I decided to leave. And now I have my own consulting company that is my business partner. You could see her story there. That's how we usually introduce ourselves. So now I am the co-founder of Critical Learning Collaborative, and this is why I'm here. Okay. So really quickly before, I'm going to stop doing all this talking, and before, we're going to be doing a lot of sharing. One of the things when Sean asked me to speak on this topic, I was like, yes, absolutely. I love this topic. This is my jam and butter. But I also felt like I could not talk about what it means to be a culturally responsive teacher without discussing this framework. So this is the framework that my beautiful business partner and I came up with. So when we meet with teachers, our framework stems from what we call love, learning, and liberation. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to kindly request that you please read what love, learning, and liberation is. And all I would love for you to do is, after you read it, maybe put in a word or a phrase that's standing out from you from this framework. Lived experiences. Thank you for that, Eileen. Freedom and learning. Yes. Authentic selves. Sisters. Okay. Belonging. Yes. Okay. And so when I think about what it means to be a culturally responsive teacher who does moves beyond heroes and holidays, this is what we think about. There's love in the classroom, authentic love, and what it means. We think about the type of learning, right? What we decide to teach our students. And we think about liberation in the classroom. What does it mean to have liberation in the classroom? How do we achieve that? And so in essence, today, this conversation and this work that we're doing, this session, really, this is at the root: love, learning, and liberation, to make sure that when we're in the classroom, we move beyond heroes and holidays. I'm seeing a lot more. Foster students' liberation, sustained in curriculum and instruction, digging deep, genuine relationships. Yes, liberation and love. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So when I thought about how I wanted to present this, these are the intentions that I have for today. Okay. First of all, it was super important to me that you all feel seen, heard, and understood. That's why we're doing a lot of sharing, whether in the chat or if you decide to unmute yourself and share with us. It's really important that you all feel like you have something to contribute, that there's a reason that the universe brought you here today to be part of this session. So it's really important that you feel seen, heard, and understood. I also really wanted us to take time to unpack and understand what it means to be culturally responsive teacher. Like, what is that? We hear that word, but what does it mean, right? I think it's really important that we build bridges from theory to practice so that we know what culturally responsiveness looks like in the classroom beyond heroes and holidays. So it's really important that we unpack it, but also, what does it look like? What do you mean by that? A little side note. One of the things that I try to do in all of my sessions, when I go to professional development or sessions as an educator, I always judged a session based on, did I learn something today that if I wanted to tomorrow, I can try in the classroom? That's how I kind of, gauged if it was good professional learning or a session. So everything that I'm doing today is in the hopes that you all can borrow this and take it tomorrow, for those of you who are already in the classroom, and practice it. Okay. So you can do a soft start when your students are coming in, and you'll see some of the other things that I developed and I strategized for us to do together. And then of course, I mean, I'm very ambitious. I think I overpacked this session, but if time permits, I would love for you all to reflect on what you already know about culturally responsive teaching and add it to your understanding with today's session, if time permits. That's me being ambitious, but these are my intentions. If there's another intention or something that I may have missed, please by all means put it in the chat. Maybe you are like, that's great and all, but I was kind of hoping she would do this. If there's something that you think you really want to also get out of this session, please put it in the chat. And if there isn't, it's okay too. Usually when I ask participants for another intention, the one that usually comes up is sometimes folks say, you know, I'm feeling like we should go slow because I really want to be able to process and take it in. And I'm like, oh, okay, that works. So anything that you're feeling would be really cool. Okay. And if not, it's okay. You don't got anything, it's all good. Okay. So you know a little bit about me. I shared a little bit about my story. I would love for us to, let me check the time. Ooh, ideally, I wanted to put you all in small groups, but we don't have to do it in small groups. We can do it in the whole group. But I want to know who's here. Who are you? One of the ways that I like to present myself, and I'm going to model for you how you can do this as well. You don't have to. On the left side, usually when I present in my sessions, I say who I am, what my name is. So my name is Mayra Almaraz. And I added the roots there. I am the daughter of Lidia and Roberto Almaraz. Ooh. Every time I share that, there's something about this declaration that makes me a little bit emotional, but they are, I am here because of them. That's my mom and my dad. And I am also the mom of David and Nico. Okay, so I invite you all, you could share in this manner. You don't have to say you are the daughter of, whomever. You could say I am the sister of, partner of, friend of. It's totally up to you, but this is just one way that I like to honor those that, came before me, and then those that come after me. My parents came before me and my kids, after me. And then the other thing that I would love to hear, how might your identity impact the way you interpreted the quotes from the soft start? So earlier you all wrote beautiful things on the chat about these quotes, and I'm going to go back to them just in case. These were the quotes. What role do you think your identity played in the quote that you chose? And I'll give you an example. I'm going to model for you how I would answer this. For me, I really like quote number 1, mainly because I feel like this is so important. One of the qualities of a culturally responsive teacher is that you're teaching students about systems. You're teaching students about the world. And yes, there are some things that are beautiful about our world, but there's also some things that are very unfair about our world and the way our world functions. And I think for me, I think this is important for me based on my identity, because I think because I grew up with so many adults, I was always an observer of our world. And I think I grew up with noticing injustices, like I mentioned, about where we had to live, how I couldn't be myself. I had to change the way I spoke to fit in. But also, if I could bring it back to the home, I grew up with lots of injustice. My brothers had very different rules than my sisters did. My sisters had curfew, my brothers did not. So for me, it's really important that we always talk about injustices and unfair systems with students so that they're able to pick up on that. Okay, I see some stuff coming in on the chat. And please, if you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourselves and tell us who you are, I'm going to go back to that slide. You are more than welcome to unmute yourself. Here it is. Ooh, beautiful things here. Is it okay if I read it, or do you all want to read it, those of you who wrote it in the chat? Okay, I'm going to read some of the left. Okay, Stephanie Hall said I could read it. I am the daughter of Debbie and Ron. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. Please correct me. Schmoker, mama to Sophia and Emma. And I chose 5 because I always felt trapped in a racist community, and leaving for college and getting a voice, I felt liberated. Yes, I'm snapping. Thank you. Ooh, look at this. My name is Amanda Hatfield, sister and best friend of Jennifer, teacher to many unique and wonderful preschoolers. Yes. Sean, do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
Sure, you can read it.
You want me to read it, or you want to read it?
I can. My name is Sean Prakash Reddy. My parents are Faith and Chenna Prakash. I am the father of 2 CPS children, Ruby and Arlo Prakash. Prakash is a family name. I identify as biracial and bicultural. My family was the only interracial family I knew in an all-white town growing up, and this is why quote 4 resonated.
Thank you so much, Sean. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. My goodness, these are so, I feel like these need to be posted somewhere because these are so beautiful. It's like poetry here, Sean. Making me emotional over here. My name is Raisa Ader, and I am the daughter of David and Mary Ader, and they are the reason I am in America. I am originally from Russia. Thank you. My name is Marie. I am the daughter of Ellen, the daughter of Charlotte, the daughter of Ellen. I am also the mother of 3 great children. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Phyllis Ratliff, the daughter of Charles and I hope I'm pronouncing Algie, mom of Malik and David. I chose 4 because it's relevant to teaching and life and home. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Anybody else want to unmute and share and tell us who you are?
I will.
Okay.
My name is Mila Robinson. My mom, my mother, Marvie Hogan, my dad, James Lacey, never married. My mother was the child of Quakers. No, not Quakers, but they were raised by Quakers in Missouri. My father, his grandfather was Mexican from Mexico, and my grandmother his grandmother came right out of slavery, and they both really struggled hard, all of the families through the generations up until our generation. And so myself, I've been married 35 years, the mother of 3 children with 2 additional children. And I've been doing childcare for 30 years now. So I chose number 5 as well. And I chose that because of our history, knowing how much we went through as a family, how much my parents, my grandparents went through on both sides, the struggle that they went through, and knowing that there are people that don't want their children to hear the struggle of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some things need to be heard. And sometimes when parents raise up and say, no, we don't want our children to hear this, school districts are forced to say, you have to shut that down. And that is a problem. And I really would like, and I continue to teach. I continue to teach of all cultures, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it needs to be known, it needs to be heard, because love is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to continue to share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that beautiful testimony of what you just shared with us. That was beautiful. And I agree with you, right? The only way we can improve is if we actually are willing to have these difficult, courageous conversations, if you will, with our littles and with our family members and with everyone, right? We have to go back to sharing our stories and connecting with each other. Thank you so much for that, Mila. I hope I'm saying your name right, Mila?
Yes, it's Mila.
Mila,
That's
beautiful.
Mila.
Thank you.
Mama, I'm sorry. She was a share. They were sharecroppers. That's what it was. They were
Sharecropper.
sharecroppers. And the Quakers came in and helped raise some of the children off the sharecroppers camp.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Whew. Okay. Anybody else before we move on?
I wanted to share as well.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm Lupe Vasquez, the daughter of Carlos Vasquez. I believe my identity plays a role within my answer to question number 5, in the sense that since I am a Mexican American who grew up with a closed-minded father and community, I've always wanted to educate people all around me, especially those younger than me. Therefore, it's difficult to bite my tongue sometimes because I'm not sure what is appropriate to say within the classroom, or what like some parents may be comfortable with their students learning.
Okay. Yes. So definitely, right? Like you saw your identity, you saw how this played out in your own family, and this is why it's like, oh, it's coming back. What's allowed to say? Some of us come from, families where, saying your opinion to an elder was seen as disrespectful, right? And so how do we reconcile those cultural norms so that we can get our students to say like, okay, well, how do I express, how do I have democracy in the home? How do I in the classroom so that it transfers, in the home, so students feel agency to be like, let me tell my parents how I feel, but I got to do it in a way that's respectful. Yes, absolutely. All of that super valid, very, very valid points. Thank you so much for that, Lupe. Okay, this is fantastic. This is so great. I feel like we could take the entire session and just doing these introductions, and we would learn so much from each other. So thank you so much again for your willingness to share all of this and your beautiful stories. I really appreciate it. I know sometimes it's hard. I know when we start like unpacking, things about our identities, it gets a little like, ooh, right? We feel that. And so I want to make sure that you all know that I honor and respect that you're the willingness to share all that. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move along to agreements. And this is something that I think, in my personal opinion, it's so important when you're going to talk about not just difficult conversations, but agreements are just a beautiful way to create community in your classroom. They're also a great a practice to also do in the home. These are our agreements whenever we're going to gather. And students already may have them, right? There are some students who say like our agreements in the house they could be something as simple as like, we don't wear shoes in the house, or no electronics while we eat, or we always eat together, right? But these are just agreements that are made. Ideally, if I had more time with you all, we would make these together, and we would think about what would be the agreements whenever there's a gathering, right? So in the interest of time, I want to share with you some sample agreements that I have used, whether as my role as a teacher, as a high school history teacher. Some of these agreements have shifted, and I've used them when I work with teachers and we're talking about difficult conversations on racism, anti-racism, or with future teachers. These are just some sample agreements that have made their way into the work that I do. So I'm going to show these to you. Okay. And all I want you to do, the very first thing is I want you to read them. And all I want you to do is to think about the agreement that you are drawn to. So we'll do one at a time. Maybe one that you're drawn to. This is what you're going to be thinking about. One that you're drawn to, one that makes you a bit uneasy and you're like, not sure I understand it. I would, if we had time, I would love to unpack that with somebody. Or number 3, after looking at these, and I know that some of these are worded, more for adults. And if you teach a younger students, these can totally be modified in such a way for younger students. Which agreement do you think would be really useful for your own students? Okay, so let's do one at a time. First things first, which one are you drawn to? Which one are you like, ooh, I am drawn to this one. This one's calling my name. I am feeling something when I read this one. So let's do that one first. Actually, let's do the, if you could just put drawn and then the drawn to and then the number, or You know, I would love to unpack. You could put it. Okay, so I'm seeing 6. That's the one that you are drawn to. Okay. 2. Okay. Drawn to 6. Okay, cool. So I'm seeing 7. 1. Let's see. What else? Drawn to 2. Beautiful. 6. Okay. All right. Are you able to see that? You're not able to see my presentations, right? I'm seeing that somebody's not able to see it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Would anybody like to unmute and tell us why you are choosing this agreement, why you're drawn to it?
I'm Stephanie Lane Baker. Connecting with other humans is a basic instinct. Humanity is the future. And it's also a reminder that we have to treat each other with love. So every part of that agreement for me is an affirmation of love. The part about compassion. And I'm sorry, I've got the captions on, so it's hard for me to read it, but the humility. And regardless of where we're on our journey, you know, at one point when I was doing anti-bias training, I thought, oh, you know what? I'm okay. And then I realized that this is a lifelong journey. And
Yes.
as a teacher who's been in this field for a long time, I'm not even halfway there. So, you know, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. I'm just gonna keep being connected. And
Yeah.
those connections will heal, and those connections will reinforce the reminder that we have to treat each other with respect, compassion, and humility. You know,
I love
it's
that.
just
Thank you so much for that, Stephanie Lane Baker. That was beautiful. Absolutely. I like that one too. That's one of my favorite. Yeah, absolutely. That one usually makes some people, you know, feel all sorts of things. Actually, a lot of them do. Anybody else? Which one you're drawn to before I ask you which one's the one that you're like, I'm a little uneasy about that one. Should we shift to then? Which one's the one that's you're like, I'm a little uneasy about this one. I don't know how I feel about this one. Put uneasy. Anyone that makes you a little uneasy? Uneasy about 2, okay. Thank you, David. You'd love to unpack number 4. Sorry, I use readers now. Uneasy about 3. Okay. About systems. Unpack number 4. Yes. Okay. You know, and I'll be honest, one of the reasons I'm seeing 4, 3, we will examine systems, internal and external, and we will be hard on systems, not on people. I see 3. Okay. 4, we will function under the belief that some systems are not our fault, but they are our responsibility, and we must reflect on our role in them. Okay. This is great. Would anybody want to come unmute and tell us why that one's making you a little bit uneasy? Forgiveness and grace. Yeah. I will share for 3 and 4, they go together. One of the hardest things when I'm talking about racism, and you know, when I was a teacher and when I'm also working with teacher teams, one of the reasons that we focus on systems and not on people is that we tend to think, well, if only we just remove that person's the bad one, let's remove them and then everything will be solved, right? And of course that's not the case. This is why if you truly want to create change, you look at systems and you look at what's at the core, what's underneath of them, what has been perpetuated. And again, this is one of the reasons that, you know, when you think about, okay, well, what if we have an issue, let's say with the police department. Well, what if we just put a person of color and everything will be better? And that's not always the case, right? We're still seeing some of the same systems being perpetuated. And so this is one of the reasons that we instead examine systems and we're hard on those systems. And then the other one, you know, some systems, we did not create them. They're not our fault, but because they are here now, they are our responsibility. And so for the good of the order, for the good of humanity, what can I do about it? What can I do about this situation? Okay. Is there one that you think, oh, this one will be really useful for students? I think students would really love this. I think I'm going to borrow this one and I might use it for my own students. Are there any here that you're like, okay, this would have been good? Number 7. We give grace to move forward and to begin our healing journey. Okay, number 1. Healing begins with acknowledgement of truth, accountability, and repairing and restoring the damage of relationship. 6 and 7. 6 and 7 will relate to students. Okay. Anybody want to? 7 for sure. Okay. Grace to move forward. Let's not dwell on it. We give grace. One of the things that has been brought up in some of my presentations, students would benefit from 1 and 6. Yes. Okay. Some of my participants have said, I love 7, but you can't do 7 without doing number 1 first. And I was like, ooh. I thought that was really interesting. That in order to get to 7, you have to make sure that you acknowledge some truths, you take accountability, and you repair and you restore the damage, and then grace will be given to you. That was interesting. Other things that have been shared with me is that they really like number 1 for students is because, well, actually, before I share that, anybody want to come off mute and say, ooh, I think this is why I think this one would be really great for students? Let's hear from you. Why do you think your students would like that?
I think when we do the initial land acknowledgement, in some ways, when students hear that, and I'm speaking to middle and older students now, that really precipitates that acknowledgement that we are giving voice to the injustice that has been done. And we are being accountable, even if our government has not been. We are trying to repair and we're trying to restore the damage. And for our young friends, my guys, it's just good to know that they will always have those land grant acknowledgements that will be precipitating any gathering that they have, where we just talk about that as, you know, as regular, you know, it's not special, where, you know, it might be for my generation, might be like, oh, we're saying we're sorry. Yes. Which then goes to 7, right? We give grace to move forward. But I'm still like going with, oh, wow, we're saying we're sorry. Why can't we be more like Canada? And actually, but yeah, that's really, for me, that really touched me.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? I think you bring up a really great point. One of the things that I've heard from participants tell me is that, you know, a lot of times, you know, not just students, but even adults kind of, what does it mean to truly heal or to truly, you know, take accountability? And so they thought that number 1 was really great for students because it teaches them how you, ask for an apology or how you go beyond an apology, right? And having this here, it says, okay, so I have to acknowledge what I did. I need accountability and I need to figure out how am I going to repair and restore the damage in the community that I caused, right? So this is just a really great example of how students learn that what happens in the classroom can also happen and lives outside of the classroom. This is kind of like what I told you. that, little me longed to be who I was at home and also in the school. It was so hard for me to have this dual identity that I had to check and I had to, be. And it's just beautiful when both worlds collide and you're like, oh, this is nice. I could totally use this in the home. I'm able to talk to my parents about this. Okay. My goodness. I can spend this entire time talking to you all, and it seems like I have to speed it up because I cannot believe what time it is. Okay. Thank you for sharing the agreements. Please borrow these. They're really great. This is just one way that you build community, because again, if you want to move beyond heroes and holidays, it's not just one day, it's throughout. You are, I didn't want to feel, singled out just one day or 1 month. I want to be who I am authentically, all those days that I'm in school. So one of the things that I wanted us to do is this really cool activity that I do with when I present, and it's called Who Are My People? And one of the reasons that we do this is because, again, I want to learn from you. I want to learn who you are. I want to be able to build community. And it's really important that we acknowledge that we are products of our environment, our culture, and also of our people. Wherever we go, we bring them with us. Okay, these are usually people who matter so much to us, who have impacted our lives and the way we see the world. And they are also the people we tend to bring with us to the classroom. So in the interest of time, I wanted you all to see this Jamboard that I have. And when I've done this with other participants, it's beautiful to hear who people tell me who are their people. So if you could just, put the names of who are your people, who are the people that you're like, ooh, they have impacted me. They are like, and you could see the Jamboard. I think that's what Leslie just put in the chat. Who are your people? Who are your people that just, you can't escape them, and they're they're with you everywhere. So if I were to do this, I would tell you that my people are, I already mentioned Lidia and Roberto, those are my people, but I would also have to say that it's Gustavo, Carmen, Claudio, oh my goodness, who's after Claudio? Patti, Marta, Juanita, Lily, Manuel. Those are my siblings. That's my 9 siblings. They are with me everywhere I go. I see the world because they were my first teachers. And the other people that are my people are Nico and David and my husband, Marco. So those are my people. Who are your people? You could put their names on the chat, or you could unmute and tell me and tell us who are your people that you take with you. This is one of my favorite activities, and I got to hear, who are your people? I know some of you already kind of said it in the intro, but let's hear it. And they could also be teachers, by the way. Some of my participants have also said, people that have, instructed them. Like for me, I don't know if you could see, but I got Dolores Huerta back there and the United Farm Workers flag. Grandpa Walter Ryan, huge influence as a teacher. Yes, Grandpa Walter Ryan. My sister Jennifer, my in-laws. Yep, that's cool. I have cool in-laws too. I love them all. Thank you for that, Amanda. Love that. Who are your people? Thank you for sharing your people with us. Who are your people? Oh my God, who's got 8 siblings? Yes, 8 siblings and BF April. Yes. I get really excited when I see other folks who have big families like me. Love that. Yes. Anybody else? Who are your people? Shout them out. Ooh, my 4 siblings, my parents, my grandparents, husband, my little girls. Yes, I would say my boyfriend, Daniel, and his mom. Oh, I love that. Thank you. My husband is one of 6. Must be why I love his. Yeah, that's awesome. Yes. I love this huge in-law family. I love that. I know my husband's one of 3. So when he met me, it was like, whoa. I have, there's 26 nieces and nephews. Okay. Keep putting, I want to hear who your people, I want to give them those shout outs. Okay. So I'm going to move forward because otherwise I said I could do this. I have this cool media connections that I wanted to do with you all. I wanted to just to focus on our identities, but I'm going to skip that for now. Okay, so what are the principles of a culturally responsive teacher so that you're not just doing heroes and holidays, right? And so while I read some of these to you and we look at what it looks like to be a culturally responsive teacher, the principles, all I want you to do is to think about, what does this principle require of me? And you don't have to put it on the chat. You could just, think about, what does it require of you to be this type of teacher? Right? Number one, it's really important that you're intentional about centering students in your work in your classroom. If you want to move beyond heroes and holidays, students need to feel like they are loved, they are cared for, and you do this by centering students in your work and in your classroom. So how do you build a community of care, trust, and authentic learning? Do you have class agreements that students help create? One of the things that I always do is I start with my agreements, and then I ask, okay, today we're going to be talking about this. Which agreement do you think you're going to need today, right? As a class and maybe as an individual, just so that your agreements come alive. Do you have class meetings? Do you have closing circles? Do you have check-ins? Do you use student feedback so that they feel like I'm not just giving my teacher feedback, but she or he uses, or they use this to be able to it shows me that what I have to say matters, right? Community classroom, make sure that you have community classroom connections, that there's text pairing where you're learning from them, where they're telling you, look, I saw this GIF, I saw this meme, I saw this TikTok, and it reminds me of this that we're reading. All of that matters. That's their world, right? Okay, so what does it require of you to be this way? I have to say this, in Lakash, this is a deep belief that we are connected, that nothing exists without the relationship to the other. This is a Mayan belief. They believe that the universe and everything in the universe is related, right? I want to make sure that you also know that this is not something that just the Maya created. In South Africa, the concept is Ubuntu, right? I am what I am because who we all are. I am because you are. It's been around for centuries, and of course, Nelson Mandela reignited it, right? And there's also in the Tagalog language, Isang Baksak, one struggle down, many more to go. We win, we all win. If you're good, I'm good, right? This was used during the United Farm Workers movement to show solidarity between Filipino farm workers and Mexican farm workers. So we're in this together. What happens to you happens to everybody, right? And it's affected. I'm gonna do the next one really quickly. What else? Examining systems of power, patterns of inequity, deficit. Do your students understand the way systems work? Do they know what systems of power even exist in the school, right? Does somebody have veto power? Do they know how the LSC system works? Do they know what they get to approve? All of that. I want students to be able to understand their world so that they see that they have a role. Or if they don't, well, like Gloria Latsing-Billing said, right? Well, let me break that structure so that I'm in it. I don't want to fit into an unfair system. I want to break it. I don't want this triangle. I want a circle. What does that require of you? Okay. The other thing too that's so important is critical self-reflection is needed to better understand ourselves, our role as educators, as well as to understand students and their lived experiences. So you have to be able to have these reflections about yourself. Are there things about your story that still needs a little bit of healing? When you think about school, was school a good place? Was school not a good place? What is it about it that made it really good for you? Could there be students who perhaps don't like coming to school? What's their reason? So critical self-reflection is absolutely important for you to be able to move beyond heroes and holidays. And then finally, self-love, humility, and knowledge to develop critical consciousness and rehumanize our educational practices. The name of my company, Critical Learning Collaborative, it was inspired by Paulo Freire. And one of the things that this brilliant philosopher said is that people who lack humility or have lost it cannot come to the people. They cannot be their partners in naming the world. Dialogue cannot exist without humility. So this is so important for us to have, because it's really important that we feel that we have to be human and humble in front of our students. We learn from our students as well. Okay, I am going to wrap it up because I know I have like 2 minutes, and I'm going to stop here because I want to make sure that Sean, you close it with the way that you close it. But thank you so much for being in community with me. This means so much. I loved hearing your testimonies. I wish honestly this was a lot longer because I had so much to do with you and I got really excited and ambitious. But thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing. If you want to contact me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find my company on Instagram, Critical Learning Collaborative, and I'll be more than happy to continue the conversation with you all. Sean, I'm sorry, I got excited.
We all got excited. You were fantastic, Myra. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. I mean, just giving a space for all of us to share ourselves and to learn a little bit about our community is exactly what we're talking about when we talk about moving beyond heroes and holidays, right? I mean, we're digging deeper. We're getting to get a better understanding of the people that we share a classroom with. So really, thank you so much for just setting that tone tonight. For everyone that is here, thank you so much. We're going to share the exit ticket in the chat so we have your information. And the reason we want your information is just so that we can inform you and make sure that you have information at the next session. Also, because we do follow-up emails, and one of those follow-up emails will be oh my goodness, did we forget to record tonight?
No, it's recording. It's
Okay,
recording.
so one of those will be to send out a copy of the recording to you, as well as a copy of the deck, so that you can get a sense of what you might want to share in your own classroom. But again, also we'll have Myra's contact info, well with her LLC. So if you ever want to reach out to her, bring her and her partner, who I also worked with, Madeline, into your classroom to help out. I'm sure Myra and Madeline would definitely jump at that chance. I just wanted to say again, Myra, thank you so much. I love your energy. And I also want to call out one other person, Sasha. She's part of our team as well. She came in, but I would love for Sasha to introduce people, should know her face as well.
Hey everyone, sorry I joined in late. I was trying to get back from my run. I'm here. So my name's Sasha Villagrana-Frost. I'm the Senior Director of the Ed Prep program here. So it's great to see so many people joining in on this great session tonight. I look forward to seeing many more sessions and many of you coming back. So I work directly with Sean and our teacher development team, Barb and Leslie as well. And I also work on our curriculum side with our academics, with many of our chairs. So if you ever have any questions, please reach out to me. Yeah, I love the self-care for myself too. So it's like, I gotta get